Well, shalom to everybody out there who is on a journey of reality. Uh, it's been interesting. I'm sure for many of you it has as well. There's so much and so many things that we have seen that are so contrary to what we've been taught was reality and truth. Uh, have been proven that they're in fact not reality. They are a reality, but they are not what is supposed to be our reality. Uh, and so, as we continue on this journey, we're it's sure that we're going to find many things about ourselves, about the things and the way we view them, uh, and if we do so and continue to do so, then inevitably we will come to a place. Will anybody ever know everything? Uh, there's an ancient sage that said that those who say they know the most are the ones typically who know the least. And honestly, this has been an amazing journey for me. Uh, and so I think for everybody else who is on the journey, then probably been an amazing journey for them. And for those that don't care about the journey, then it's all fodder anyways. So I'm blessed today to get to have an opportunity to look back over my life for myself and see all the different ways that the universe has worked. I've noticed, although it doesn't always fit with my paradigm of how I wish things would go, you know, it's been quite crazy how many things have come into my life, little things that I needed, and all of a sudden it just kind of, happenstantly appeared there. And sometimes that might be something as simple as a word. Uh, if you're struggling, or you're wrestling, or you're troubled, or you're just simply contemplating something, and all of a sudden there will be an answer that comes, sometimes from a really unexpected place. And that's why we always have to be conscious, looking for truth, uh, and then trust our higher self to know when and what truth is. Uh, so, anyways, shalom to you guys. I hope that you are blessed. I hope that you're feeling well and your bodies are doing well, and that your spirit is doing well. And I love the statement in the New Testament where it says, "I would above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers." And so, whether we recognize it or not, when we are well soulishly, that is to say, when our enlightened higher self is in a place of peace and alignment with the universe, then that does have an effect. It does manifest into our human bodies as well. Uh, and then sometimes what's going on in our soul manifests in our human bodies, and it may not always be pleasant, but sometimes the unpleasant is as necessary as the pleasant is. That's been for me. That I was taught up believing that if things go bad, you did something that made God mad, and He's punishing you. And so, uh, trying to learn and make sense of how does punishment on this earth work, and I'm so thankful for all the insights that have been given to me. Some of the greatest swamis and mystics and masters and enlightened ones, almost every one of them will tell you that there are quote unquote bad people. Uh, so we have to recognize that we live in a world that, whether we like it or don't like it, is corrupt. There is the access to corruption, and then all the things that I've shared, the spiritual corruption, the psychic corruption. Uh, I I wish that we could understand for ourselves, actually on two different levels. For ourselves, because things happen against us. Uh, if you were brought up believing that that there aren't psychic attacks and that we're not as powerful as what we really are, then you may either be the one that is imposing a psychic attack on someone by bad thoughts of them, or you may be the one receiving that psychic attack because of someone else's bad thoughts towards you. And so while we are being a part of God and having God in us, we are greater than those attacks. It doesn't mean those attacks don't have any effect. Doesn't mean they don't have any power. It just simply means that once we recognize, acknowledge, and then begin to deal with, that we can overcome even the psychic attacks. And so that's a beautiful thought. So we'll come together and we say to you tonight, Namaste. I hope that you are truly blessed. We're in chapter 8 of our regression book with Anna walking with Yeshua, her uncle. Some of these things are like, I have to think about them because it's like, wow, this is just so powerful. It's been quite amazing to me how hard that the forces that are at work, and there were many, but Judaism is one of them. Of course, Islam is, but it's to the Islamic people. How hard Christianity has worked to hide from you what the true believers before Christianity existed, what they really believed. And that really has been the main place that they've worked to obscure, is to hide and to paint a picture for the world of who Jesus really was. And in reality, he wasn't most of that really at many levels. And so we're on chapter 8, the village on the Sea of Galilee. And so once again tonight, I hope you guys will be blessed and you'll see some things. Have any of you had thoughts after, like, we're done? Have you gone through the next couple of days and some thought would pop into your mind of something that you learned, that, or a thought process? I said it, and I've said it a couple of times, and so I value this because I studied. Those of you who've been with me a while know that I studied the biblical text a lot, and I have to admit that I like the true Yeshua, the mystic Yeshua. He was a pretty cool guy. If he lived in our day, first off, he'd be the enemy of Christianity, just like he was of Judaism, and secondly, we would probably call him a hippie. So it's really quite a paradigm. So the village on the Sea of Galilee. The following week, you remember Dolores finished. The following week, as we begun the session, I returned Anna as Naomi to the time when she was traveling with Yeshua. She hasn't left off. She wants to pick back up. She wants to get back into this thought process. They've just left the leper village. They're headed to the next place that she had talked about that they were going next. And so Dolores asked her, let's go back to when you left the leper village with the Nazarene and the rest of the group on the first journey you made with him. You were going to another village where you said he would meet with some of his other followers. I will count to 3 and you will be there. 1, 2, 3. We are coming into the second village on your travels with the Nazarene. What are you doing? Anna answers, we are entering a village on a lake, the lake of Kinneret, and we have a meeting of the followers, the believers of this way of life, these teachings. Our stay here, from what I understand, is mainly for the purposes of spreading the word and reinforcing our numbers. And so Dolores writes, I wrote the name of the lake phonetically. Later, when I had a chance to look at a map in the back of my Bible, I found the lake of Kinnereth, also called the Sea of Gennesaret. Some of you may have heard both of those because I've seen both of those depending on what version of Bible. And the Sea of Gennesaret, or Chinnereth, a close match to my phonetic spelling. I thought this was remarkable. It is a Jewish name for the Sea of Galilee. I had never known this lake by any other name. I found in my research that in Hebrew and Aramaic, Yam can mean both sea and lake. And the Greek translator of the Bible initiates this, which is how we got the Sea of Galilee in the first place. Anna had been having doubts as to the validity of the strange material that was coming from her subconscious during these sessions. After I made this discovery, I told her about it, and she did not recognize the name Kinnereth either. I told her it was the old name for the Sea of Galilee. She then asked with a straight face, "What's the Sea of Galilee?" This was totally unexpected, and I was momentarily stunned because I realized the importance of her question. Every Christian knows this biblical place name because it is so associated with the life of Jesus. This showed beyond a doubt that Anna did not even have a rudimentary knowledge of his life or of the New Testament. When I explained it to her, she felt better because it seemed to supply the proof she needed to convince her that this information was definitely not coming from her own mind. All of us question, or let me say it like this. I want to be inclusive, but I don't want to be falsely inclusive. If the Spirit, and I believe everybody is, I don't believe everybody recognizes it or maybe understands it or even possibly listens. But your higher self is constantly giving you direction. And you remember from a few weeks ago that we learned that your higher self will only tell you what's true and right. It doesn't know the way of humanity, the way of lying and manipulating and deceiving and false pretenses. When yes is the answer, the answer is going to be yes. It's never going to be, well, maybe, or could be, or any things like we impose as humans. You know, oftentimes we do tell half truths and partial truths, and you do understand that a half truth and a partial truth is still not the truth. And many people don't understand that in our society. They've grown up with their parents giving them half truths. They've grown up with being lied to by family members and lied to by schools and lied to by governments and lied to by all kinds of things to believe that these not truth versions are somehow supposed to be accepted as truth. But unfortunately, just like with the Akashic record, and for those of you who don't know, that will be the place when you leave this body and this body collapses on the ground and is dead, that you will go, and that will be where you also encounter your judgment. Now, I understand, and it may be and it may not be, I'm not sure any of us will know until some future date, but we go back to the Akashic record for judgment after every lifetime. So when you come into a body, the minute that they spank your butt and you scream is when you popped a life inside of that body. And so you live through the life, and then you will go and you will watch a video, basically, for all lack of better words. You will watch a video of how you made everyone, and here's the beauty of it. Every mean, evil, hurtful thing that you did to somebody, you're going to encounter. But here's the difference between what we were taught about the judgment that comes at death and what is appearing that is reality. And that is this. When you see this, you don't see this from your perspective, and then you somehow, because you're now spirit, you now have some benevolent goodness that you can have empathy for this person. That's not how this Akashic record works. When you go and watch it, you watch each and every one of these situations across the whole time you were alive, and you don't watch them from your perspective. You watch them from the other. So it's as if you're dead for that moment spiritually. And you have to encounter from their perspective how you treated and how your behavior made that person feel as if you were that person. That brings a totally different picture from me going and looking at I did something to somebody and I go, yeah, I'm sorry. I really, I hope that person forgave me. I really didn't mean to say that. That ain't how it is, friend. You're going to go and you're going to feel the pain inside of you in your spirit that you caused in that person. And that's a totally different judgment than what we've been presented with. And so we come in a lifetime and then we immediately go, and it's as if they do this in the filmmaking industry. They do this every day. When a day is over with, they go back and they look at what they filmed and they see how it fit. What can they use? What do they need to get rid of? That's how you do your lives. Every life you go and see how your recording played out. And so we will be through many of these and already have many times, and many of us, I'm sure all of us will have some more, but how many is going to be determined by how quickly you're capable of learning. And so very astounding for this girl to not have a lot of biblical knowledge and yet be able to pull all of this biblical knowledge out of her. I think that there is probably somewhere, because the whole quantum computing thing is what is proving that there is an Akashic record, a record of everything that has ever happened in humanity. And so when you go into this state, probably the reality of it is that you're not even reaching inside of yourself to find this information. You actually, in the spirit realm, you move into the Akashic record where every act, every thought, every deed of every human that's ever existed resides in the Akashic record. And quantum physics is proving that exists. So it's now not just a spiritual thing, now it's starting to become a science thing as well in many of these things. And so she accesses this. How can she know if she doesn't know what the Sea of Galilee is? How can she access the sea or the lake of Gennesaret that exists over in Israel? How would somebody be able to do that? And they had to go to somewhere where that is, and it's not in your head. We actually move into the spiritual plane. And so every Christian knows that biblical place name, because it is so associated with the life of Jesus. This showed beyond a doubt that Anna did not even have a rudimentary knowledge of his life or of the New Testament. When I explained it to her, she felt better because it seemed to supply the proof she needed to convince her that this information was definitely not coming from her own mind. And that's a good place to be. The fact that she's struggling with this is where we have to learn how to use the positive, the negative, the struggle as positively. And I don't know, I hope some of you guys are, because it's one of the greatest blessings when you begin to truly grab a hold of the truth that we have been told that bad things are bad. And I don't say that the outworkings of bad things aren't bad, so please don't get me wrong in that. But as you learn and as you grow, we are here solely for the purpose of learning. And I don't know about you guys, but this is just like blown my whole thought processes away, honestly. We are here in this human body form today solely for the purpose of learning. We don't need any of these things. We exist without any of this stuff that we think that we need so badly. We're only here for a short season. Yes, to you, a human, 80 years seems like forever. Okay? But I promise you, it's just a brief millisecond of how long you've been alive. Wow. And if you will allow yourself to begin to think like that and to begin to get that revelation, all of a sudden bad things aren't as bad as they used to be. I'm finding it slightly, so please, slightly. I said this at supper tonight. I said, you know, it's crazy to me how we want everyone to get it and to get it fast, but we ourselves find it difficult to get it and get it fast. So I think that all of us need to understand this is a lot more of a journey and a process than it is a full evolution, and we're just, poof, we're going to arrive and we have all the answers.
It's just one stop on the journey.
Well, yeah. And so Dave said that this incarnation, this time I'm living now, remember I had to come in as a woman and I had to learn a lot going through the Civil War. And then I came in the 30s and I had to learn a lot during the 30s. And now I'm back in the 2000s and I might be back in 2100, you know. But every time that I come in, I've made a decision to come in, and you made a decision to come in, whether you believe that or not. And for some people, that's hard to believe that you chose this life. But hey, you know, there was something that your parents, good, bad, or indifferent, could teach you that probably nobody else could. And sometimes, unfortunately, our parents are put there for the purpose of teaching us hard lessons. And I don't mean, you know, one of the hardest lessons is to learn how not to let people that love you hurt you so bad. Whether you believe it or not, friend, that is a lesson that is very valuable. And so we have to understand that this is a journey. I would love it if everybody, I think it would be amazing, man, if I had the money, if I was Elon Musk, I would hire every quantum therapist I could and give everybody who wanted an opportunity to go back in their life an opportunity to go back to see that what I'm telling you is real. Friend, when you see it in your mind, it wasn't in your mind, but it's in your mind. It's crazy, crazy clear. I came up with all kinds of details that there's no way on earth I could have known that detail about the time I was living in. And so the point being, and why I said all of that, was to lead into the fact, just as Dolores says that this did not come from her own mind, many of you may and many of you may not know that we leave, and I'm talking spiritually and I'm talking tied to mentally, we leave our bodies a lot more than you realize we do. You check out at night out of this plane and you move into a spiritual plane. There's all kinds of information that can be given to us through dreams. There's all kinds of doors for both good and bad spirits that can be opened in our dreams. And so we have to give value to those things or we miss the whole meaning. Yeah. So Dolores says, are the people in the town mostly believers, or will you have to be secret here also? And Anna says, there is a good-sized group here. We have to keep fairly quiet, but we can feel safe. This is a smaller town, and it seems the people that live here are very much alike in thought, so we can feel safe here. And so Dolores says, there isn't as much danger about meeting openly. And Anna says, no, because there seems to be an understanding here. On the surface, they are just a small town, but they are very cautious about the teachings. And that really does fit a lot with when I say the words of pre-Christian believers. You know, how do you say pre-Christian Christians? Because the term Christian was first used in Antioch 200 years before there was a Christianity, but they called them Christians because these people believed the Christ teaching. And it wasn't Christ in you, the hope of glory, that you took a bath in somebody's blood, and because of that you were blood bought. I don't know where that horrendous thought process came from, and it may have some implications in some other belief systems, but the truth of the matter is, friend, blood didn't buy me. I've been since there was. and so have you. And so Dolores asked, did anyone tell you the name of this town, or does it have a name? And Anna responds, this is the village on Lake Kinneret. That's all you know it by. Is there a certain place in the village you're going to? And Anna responds, yes, there is an area by the lake. First we will go and cleanse ourselves in the lake. This cleansing is necessary for both the body and the spirit. On one portion of the shore there are some very light bluffs, and within these bluffs there are meeting rooms. They are not known to everyone, for they have false fronts. This is where we will be for our meeting, but it seems we will be staying on the banks of the lake. And then Dolores adds, I later did research about this area near the Sea of Galilee. There are many places where mountains and bluffs come down practically to the edge of the lake. This was especially true of Magdala, the home of Mary Magdalene, where the shore road winds its way along a steep mountain slope. In the area of Arbel, there are caves that have a history of hiding places for criminals or political refuges during the time of Christ. Some of these were natural caves that were enlarged to be used as places of refuge, and some so high on the bluffs that they were virtually inaccessible to discovery by soldiers. During the time of Christ, Galilee was one of the most fertile agriculture areas on the earth. As late as 680 AD, the Sea of Galilee area possessed great forests, but the fruit trees praised by the historian Josephus have now shriveled to miserable remnants of their old selves. The forests have, for the most part, disappeared and have been replaced by sparse desert conditions in many places. In Jesus' time, the valley had a hot, dismal climate around the lake because sea breezes were cut off by the mountains. In wintertime, the hills and the shores would be green, but in the long summer, a depressing aridity spread over everything. It has been proven that people can make the journey on foot from Jerusalem to the Sea of Galilee in 3 days. The valley would be avoided during the summer because of the excessive heat. Traveling would normally have only been done in winter and early spring when the climate was warm and sleeping in the open would be possible. At all seasons, the Jordan Valley might be a desirable route to persons not wishing to be seen in the towns for fear of the government or for other reasons. The Bible states that Cana in Galilee was one of Jesus' favorite places. Historians think that Cana was suitable as a center for anyone who wished to organize rebellion, but had powerful enemies in larger towns, and therefore could not make any place a permanent abode. This would be another reason for Jesus' wandering. It was dangerous to stay anywhere very long unless he knew for sure he would be safe there. Stories of his accomplishment quickly spread out of Galilee over the whole of Palestine. It was taken for granted that Galilee had close connections with all parts of Palestine, so that information concerning Jesus quickly reached all the corners of the land. Thus, those in power in Jerusalem were kept informed on this subversive activities, but they felt no need to stop him, so long as he stayed away from the larger cities, or unless it became obvious that he was inspiring a rebellion. Research revealed that there was literally hundreds of small towns and villages in this area that were not recorded by history, or at least no mention of them have passed down to us. There were many large cities existing at the time of Christ that were never mentioned in the Bible. Thus, it should not be surprising that the smaller ones have disappeared from sight and records. I believe this historical description of the Jordan Valley and the Sea of Galilee fits precisely with the places described by Naomi. And so Dolores asked her, I thought you were going to someone's house. And Anna says, I think for safety they found it best to do it this way. You see, when you have just a handful of people, you are able to do that. But there is a larger group here. And so Dolores says, I think you told me John goes ahead and sets this up. And Anna says, yes. I think when they start out on their journeys, they have a fairly good idea where each one is going to take them. They might swerve off their path every now and then, depending on the importance. But John usually has things prepared so things will go as smoothly and safely as possible. And so then Dolores asks again, then you are going to meet in one of the rooms on this bluff. When is the meeting going to take place? And Anna responds, it seems that this meeting will occur tomorrow in the early morning. We will relax this evening, and at dawn we will meet. And Dolores says, do you have any problems getting food to eat? And Anna says, no, we are provided with food, and we carry certain provisions with us. We try not to be a burden to anyone. We accept whatever gifts they may wish to give. So now you understand how he funded his ministry was through spirit beings giving to him. We accept whatever gifts they may wish to give in the form of food and shelter, but we can be self-reliant. Then let's move ahead to the morning when a meeting is to take place and tell me what is happening. Anna says, we are being led into this room and they have covered over the front of one of these bluffs with some stone and some trees. They have done a very good job, and so I see this bluff open up. There are some straw mats on the floor, and there are candle lights, and there are some wooden benches and tables. The group seems to be a rather good size, about 40 people, is approximately what I can see. And it is good. I see a mixture of men and women. The room will hold them all without being crowded. Dolores asks, the room will hold them all without being crowded. And Anna says, yes, this is a large room. The opening is deceiving, but you enter and it is a large room. They have secured it, propped it up with different materials to make sure it is safe. There seems to be a little hallway and maybe some other small rooms off to the side. And so Dolores says, is it some sort of nature cave or ? And Anna says, yes. It seems as if they did some clearing out of accumulated earth and there was a room in here, and then a natural little path, and it looks as if there could be a few smaller rooms back there. And so Dolores says, there are probably not any windows, but there are the candles. And Anna responds, right. And so Dolores asks again, and these are all people who have come to hear him speak? Can you tell me what happens? Do they have any kind of ceremony or procedure that they go through? Are you already feeling that she's fixing to bring out a new revelation? Anna responds, the person who is in charge of this meeting is showing much concern for the Nazarenes' welfare because they are getting comments from messengers that his teachings are being spread far and wide and the government is becoming uneasy. They don't like his popularity. Dolores asks, and Anna says yes, or the idea that people can think for themselves and choose their own path. There are people who are not very fond of him, both in the temple and in the government. So this group is just talking about their concern and how to carry on his work. But he rises and he speaks and he says, they should fear not, for he is walking his path directed by God, his path of the heart. And he fears nothing. The only fear he might have is that he might not be able to teach and touch all the people he needs to in his lifetime. This was spoken slowly with breaks, as though she was hearing him speak the words and then repeating them to me in broken phrases. And so Dolores then asks, then he has no fear of these rumors or these people who are against him. And Anna says, no, it will not make any difference in what he does with his life because he knows he walks with God. So what I started on earlier, it really is a great growing tool when we begin to understand a lot more so than we realize, that there are predestinated paths, I believe. That is to say, one has a calling to be one thing and another has a calling to be another thing. Do we have control? Absolutely. God is very, very conscious of our free will. Do you have the free will to not accomplish your task? Yes, you do. Will there be those that will do that? Absolutely. Probably a lot more than you might think. And so, his truth that grows from within, that eternal light is not only in the temple, but eternal light is in the heart. What a beautiful message. Can you see why they didn't want you to know this? If eternal light, if you had been told your whole life how wonderful and amazing and supernatural that you really are, would you be the person today that you are? See, we focus on punishment for bad behavior, and we do nothing to educate for good behavior. So what if, as I said with Saudi, and so there's been some really amazing truths that have been brought out from these books. But what if we started our children from their earliest time and our grandchildren? What if we started those children learning how much they had value? See, here's the thing that's starting to come to light. And for some of you, you might immediately dismiss it, and others of you, it might make you pause a second, and for some of you, you're going to hear it. But if we are, and we are, so I'm not questioning that, I'm just stating it in a question form. If we are spiritually eternal, then when a baby is born, is our spirit once again a baby? Stop. Many of you might dismiss that as lightly without understanding fully what I'm saying. For me, this has changed a lot of the concepts about how I view little children. Okay, let's catch our breath and look at this again. If our spirit men, and they may all be different ages, I don't know when the Creator created each individual spirit soul, okay? But if our spirit soul has been in, let's just use a small number. If we've all come into this lifetime and all of us have lived in 10 different bodies, every time when your spirit soul was deposited in a baby, the minute that that baby cries, which is how this system seems to work, was that spirit soul that was put inside of that body, was that spirit soul ancient or was it new? You probably never stopped for long enough to think about that question, but it's absolutely worth thinking of. So when you hold your little baby and you're swaddling your little baby and you're telling your baby or your grandbaby or your neighbor's baby or the unknown baby, when you're looking at that baby, dear friend, you may be seeing a newborn human, and that is true. But you're looking at an ancient soul. That's amazing. Do you want to know why this? Some of this, I believe, goes with the thinning of the veil. Do you know why we are seeing more psychic power and we're seeing more children that possess psychic power than ever before? Because this is starting, all of this truth affects everything. When I learn a truth and I share that truth with you, that reverberates as energy through the world. And so we're starting to learn that we are. This is the beginning of the harvest. And if you're a Christian, the harvest to you was the gathering of everyone into Christianity. Actually, the harvest is everyone leaving Christianity to come and accept the responsibility of their self. That is what the purpose is. And so we're having children at unprecedented rates. They have children who are coming in with more knowledge about how can a child that's 3 years old look at you and go, that's a picture of my great grandfather who I never met. How did that child know that? Because that child body did not meet that person, but that spirit did. And so think about that when you're holding your little grandbaby and you look your little grandbaby in the eyes and begin, instead of speaking goo goo gaga to a little baby human, you ought to begin to speak spiritually into that spirit to help guide it on its path. If we did, folks, I guarantee you, you wouldn't have the belligerence in young children that you have. It's just a continuation of the deception of who we truly are. And that is the purpose of organized religion, is to help you forget who you are. You'll see that, I'm sure, here in a minute. And so she says, he grows from within, just as we must. This is a perfect picture of her explaining Yeshua, but this is the same picture that it should be you. That eternal light is not only in the temple, but eternal light is in your heart. And then eternal flame never dies, even though you leave the physical being. So he will continue walking and teaching what he believes is right. He will teach what he believes is his reason for existing. And that is the purpose for why he came in. Yeshua knew when he came in that he came in for a purpose. I came in to share truth. And so the eternal light referred to as a light was never extinguished, located in the inner court of the temple, which was nothing but a metaphoric picture of the spirit realm. Okay, understand, this is pre-Christianity. And so Dolores asked, but they wanted to warn him anyways. And Anna says, yes, it seems tensions are mounting, and we hear this kind of rumor every now and then. And then things calm down for a while. And you know, the government is very fickle. If they get too worried, they will just come up with a new tax. And so Dolores laughs. That's their answer. And so Anna says, yes, it is their way of hurting and manipulating. If there is a special occurrence happening, or if a battle has been won, they will be preoccupied. Things will die down because the focus will be on something else. And so Dolores then asks, and the priests, they just go along with what the government says. And Anna says, yes, the priest? The priest and the rabbis differ. The Roman priest, yes, the rabbis do what they have to do to survive, but they are neither for the government nor for the Nazarene. And so Dolores laughs. They're kind of in the middle. They probably think that the safest place to be. Well, are there any other preparations, or is he just going to speak? Nana says, he is speaking now. And just speaking his heart, he will just linger here a short while, and this village seems to be a contact. It seems as if there are many true followers here who will receive their assignments and head out on their paths, on their own paths. So this is a safe haven, a little bit of relaxation, a communication, and then heading out again. This group seems to be able to spread his teachings, but yet they can also infiltrate into other areas and be accepted as Romans or whatever they need to be in order to protect their teachings. And so when you hear Paul referring to that, we then see that what is inside of you is the purpose to carry that to those who do not know. Then these are people who know his teachings, so he doesn't have to explain as much to them. Right, they are followers, dedicated followers. And Dolores says, then mostly what he is telling them are the things he wants them to do. And Anna says, yes, but they also have time for prayer and communication, and lessons are never over. We should learn about everything, both good and bad. If you encounter a bad situation, I have started doing this and I've had some success. What is it that my mind, what does myself see that source may be wanting? What lesson am I to learn out of this? And most of the time I can answer myself. Well, it appears like he wants me to learn how to act when I encounter this type of person, or how I should act when I encounter this kind of thought process. And those are the lessons. And if we had known and were doing that all of our life, friends, most of the dilemmas in your life would never have existed past a time or two. But when you live in constant dilemma, you never have any answers, and so it's a 50-50 bet that what you're doing is going to be wrong. And Source doesn't want us to have 50-50 odds. He wants us to know how to handle a situation. And so I was wondering if there was anything important that he told them that you didn't already know about. And Anna says, oh no, I guess he is mainly just reassuring them that they should not fear. Whatever happens, it is part of his reason for being. And whatever happens in his life or to him, there is a lesson to be learned. Thank you, Brother Rob. That there goes way beyond the surface. And we've been taught to live on the surface. And the surface is not reality. It is the circumstance that we see, but it's not reality for the spirit being, for the light worker, for the soul worker. And whatever happens in his life or to him, there is a lesson to be learned that goes way beyond the surface. He is also trying to remind them to find strength in their own God inside. Does it make you wonder why your Christian pastor couldn't tell you what it meant when he said, do you not know that you are Elohim? Do you not know that you are mighty ones? Man, I've read that verse so many times, and it just is so overwhelming that he was standing there and how well they hid that in plain sight. Not one Christian preacher I know would ever be willing to tell people that God is in you. He is also trying to remind them to find strength in their own God inside. Of course, I've shared with you that he lives in he lives in your mind. And look through the heart and be of service to fellow men and women. And Dolores asks, how is he dressed while he's been on this journey? And it says the usual robes. Dolores asks, any certain colors? And then it says, oh, the colors are simple, mainly the tan material. Every now and then there is this stripe that goes through the edge of the garment, the hood and the sleeves and the hem. But otherwise it's very simple. So Dolores says, then more or less he's dressed like the rest of you. And Anna says, oh yes. And so Dolores says, but they are all meeting there today to decide what they are going to do and get their instructions, so to speak. And Anna responds, and yes, to keep him aware of progress that is being made. So it's just that. It's a gathering. He imparts, they impart. I'm sure they have great mirth at the victories that have been won, the things that have been done. I'm sure he shares what he saw that touched him in the leper camp before they came here. They were humans. You like to do that. We call it catching up. We see somebody that we've known, maybe we had a tight connection with, and we want to catch up. Well, how have you been? How's your wife? How's your children? How's your job? How's things going? Why would we think that it would have been any different with them? And so Dolores asks, what kind of progress have they made? Is there anything in particular? And Anna says, it seems that they travel in their own little groups, and if they hear of a place where there might be interest in the teachings, they go seek out that area. Or if there is somebody in need of help or who is having much injustice, they will go there. They find ways of using the underground or helping people in whatever way they can. Then they do more than just spread the teachings. And Anna says yes, because one of the main teachings is to have love of your fellow human beings and to treat them as you would like to be treated. There is much misuse of this practice. Remember, the whole sum of the Torah hangs on two laws. Love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all yourself. And secondly is like it, love your neighbor the exact same way you love yourself. And so it was becoming obvious that Jesus taught his followers to perform practical services for people, as well as spreading his teachings. This point was also brought out in Jesus in the Essenes, that contrary to the biblical version, he encouraged his followers to leave him and go out on their own. They did not wait until after his death. He did this so they would not become dependent on him. And so Dolores says, is he going to stay there in that village for a while? And Anna says, I think he would like to linger one more night, but he feels that we should be leaving, so we will be heading out of this village soon. And Dolores says, then there was nothing else important that happened at that village? And Anna says, no, just that you should understand that they do spread the teachings. They always appear to go out to do that, but there are other things that they do. They can use that or other things as a disguise for whatever needs to be done, but they always live by the teachings. So Dolores says, do you know where he's going next? Anna responds, there seems to be another town, they told me, Giberon. The Bible dictionary lists two places that sound like this. Gibeah, a city in the hill of Judea, and Gibeon, a royal city of the Canaanites. It would seem that Gibeah would more accurately fit the description of the area they were passing through. And so Anna says, it seems there are more followers there, yet they are just starting on their path. It seems wherever he goes, he tries to do whatever these people are in need of with the healing and the teachings. And Dolores says, and the ones at the village by the lake were the most advanced followers. Would that be correct? And Anna says, yes, but even here he is there to be of service and to help the individuals to seek him out. But it didn't seem as if anything came up in this meeting. I think they are doing quite well right now. I don't think there is any upheaval or any suffering occurring. And so Dolores says, then everything is working the way it should in that village. And in the next village, there are supposed to be followers that are more or less starting out, and they are not so sure of themselves. Would that be correct? Anna says yes. And this next village seems quite a bit larger. I guess you could call the Lake Kinnereth village just a small colony, and this is the larger place we are going to. And so Dolores asks, will it take long to get there? Anna says, I think we could do it by evening, he said, or if not, by the next day early. And so Dolores then asks, then it's not very far. Has John also arranged things at this village? And Anna responds, I guess he has, yes. And so Dolores says, John goes ahead of you and you don't see him till you get there. And how is that done? And Anna says, that is how it happens sometimes. I would say usually, but there are occasions when he will come back to either divert us somewhere else or tell us if there are any changes. And so Dolores then asks, then he really goes ahead and sets everything up. And Anna says yes, and then we see him again once we are there. And so Dolores says, let's move ahead to when you get to the next village and tell me what's happening. You said it was a larger village. Anna says, yes. I see a well in the center of a large square, and there is a large area where people come and get water. So this village is more like a small town. The way you see the little center square and small buildings. I've been told that I might spend some time here, so I may be of service and learn. It seems that I will be working with somebody who has been on journeys with him before, but is now, I guess you can say, stationed in this village. I guess that's what you might call it. And so I am supposed to be in a learning position here to help pass on the teachings and care for those who need it. I am just to be of assistance. And so Dolores says, and he will go somewhere else while you're there? And Anna says, yes, he will come back for me. And then it seems he has to head back towards Jerusalem. And Dolores says, is anyone else out of your group going to stay there with you? And Anna responds, not where I am staying. I think every now and then, depending on what a town or a village needs, he might leave some of his followers to assume certain roles. Sometimes they are there for a brief period of time, and sometimes they end up staying. So I think from what I am feeling that there are some of the previous followers in this village. Maybe they are working in different capacities, whether at teaching or healing or just being there for whoever is in need. And Dolores says, how do you feel about leaving you there? And she says, I feel as if I am ready to stay in one place for a while. If he says this is where I'm supposed to be so I may learn and be of service, then it seems very right for me to be here. I am so alive and so filled with what has allowed me to do and learn from him, but it just seems very natural to have this happen. And so Dolores said, did anything else happen before he left? And then it says, he is talking with a few men from the village, and they are scheduling him to stay at different places and help him visit with those who need him most. Then they will have a gathering in the evening. You see, many of these people of his teachings and his followers have managed to build large meeting rooms below their homes so that they can't be found out. And Dolores says, then he will be talking to these followers who are not as experienced. And Anna says, yes. Answering questions, usually that is where his teachings come in, or if he feels moved, then he will talk on a significant subject. And so Dolores says, then you want to move ahead to the night of the gathering and tell me what is happening. And Anna says, I have been introduced to the person I will be working with. His name is Abram. I will be staying in his home and learning further teachings, but also assisting with anything he feels I should be doing, a variety of things, whether it is working with the ill or the older people or the orphans or just teaching. And so Dolores asked, did he introduce you as Naomi or Nathanael? And with an embarrassing smile, Abram, oh, I know this is difficult. You see, I am at the point now where I almost feel foolish doing this. I think for my protection he is calling me Nathaniel, but I know he has told Abram and that I really am Naomi. So I think there will be a change soon where I no longer need this type of disguise. I felt very good seeing more women in the other little colony, and so in this village I can be safe to be what I am, and I am, growing and getting older and not looking so boyish. So I think I will change. It was obvious that more time had passed than I thought. You could have condensed weeks and months in the narrative, especially if they were all alike. Naomi was maturing and taking on the physical characteristics of a young woman. And so Dolores asked, then this journey has taken longer than a few days, is that right? And Anna says, I thought it would be a number of weeks. It changed. Our journey will change depending on need and what John finds out. So it has been a while, and I guess that's why I feel I am ready to be in one place and be given a responsibility for a while. But I am between my 13th and 14th year. I feel I am changing in my body. I will not be able to look like a boy for much longer. And so Dolores says, you won't be able to hide it anymore. And Anna says, no. He probably knew I would have to reemerge as what I was. So this is probably not only a learning place, but a safe place to make my transformation. And Dolores says, yes, then whenever he comes back and you travel again, it will be as a girl. And Anna says, and it will be safe and I will feel good. There will probably be more women, so it will be more acceptable. And Dolores says, was that a surprise to see more women at the other place? And Anna says, yes. I think anyone who is sincere and of truth is accepted, but traditionally most women are brought up like my mother. It appears that there are some who feel as strong about their path as I do about mine. And Dolores says, yes. The majority of the women aren't even taught anything, are they? Nana says, no, it is very rare, very rare. And so Dolores then asks, that's why it would be a surprise to find so many women. I suppose it doesn't matter to the Nazarene, does it? Anna responds, oh, he embraces everyone. He sees differently. He sees people as people. When you live through your heart, you are so much more aware of other things that are not more important if you are a male. You are as important as anyone else. It is not what kind of body you are in. It is what the essence is that shines through that body. How beautiful. So we could then ponder a very profound question. What is our essence? Ask yourself that. I mean, really, that's the person that needs to answer the question the most. What is your essence? What is your spirit like? And of course, I would suspect that determines a lot. So you get this, and I'm sure it'll continue, but you get this overwhelming picture that he just was. He wasn't dogmatic. He didn't have a lot of doctrine taught to teach. He taught to love. He taught to care. He taught to help. If you remember, he said, I came to be a servant. What if he really meant that? That we've missed, all of us mostly have missed the whole purpose. What if the purpose of you being here is to learn to be a servant? Maybe you had a problem in your spirit realm where you were not wanting to serve anymore. And so you needed to come and remind yourself in the density of humanity what it means to be a servant or a helper. And truly, we're all helpers. I'm not talking a helper to man. I'm talking a helper to our Creator. And so I think we're going to hang right there. I hope you have been blessed. That went really quick. I love these teachings. He is somebody who I could personally see if I was in Israel or if he was in America. I could see me following. You know, he said that you must love your father and you must love your father and mother, and at the same time you must hate your father and mother. He wanted us to be willing to give up everything for him. Does that mean that we give up our family and quit loving them? Absolutely not. In fact, quite the opposite. Sometimes in this walk, some of you will learn, others may never get the chance or whatever, but in this walk, in manifesting things in the spirit realm, those things you hold on to are typically the things that are not benefited. It's in the letting go that you actually receive. So I hope you will let go of your old thoughts and old paradigms and old dogmas and old belief systems, that you might receive the truth of the light. Namaste.